Royalties, where are those discussed? What can, you said barely, maybe?
At the contract time.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time you sign the contract.
And can you elaborate more for what people could expect? Is it a percentage of books sold? What does that normally
People
look
can
like?
expect generally 5% net on paperback. And let me rush in to assure you that nobody in scholarly publishing is making money at it.
Yeah, sorry, do you want to?
I was going to say, until very recently, you could make a fair bit of money with the Public Lending Rights Commission. And you should always, when you publish a scholarly book in Canada, you should always register with the Public Lending Rights Commission. What they do, every time your book appears in a library, they pay you sort of a royalty for how they canvass 10 libraries across the country. They pick 10 on a rotating basis across the country. And it used to be that academics could get, you know, a fair chunk of change every year for that. Now, what they have quite recently done, I think in the past couple of years, is they've disqualified university libraries from being part of the public library system. Because, and so authors who were getting $500 a year from public lending rights are now getting $25 a year. But it's still well worth registering for.
Yeah, it's important to, I mean, that's true that the question of the contract was not something that we addressed directly. And the timing of the contract can be variable as well as can the royalties. So with scholarly publishing, it is the case that the timing of the contract is usually subsequent to peer review and acceptance by the press's internal publications review committee, and subsequent to some kind of determination that adequate funding has been secured or will be secured for the book. And that's because if the contract comes earlier in the stage, earlier in the process than at that stage, it will only be conditional upon those being effectively met. With the contract discussion and questions about things like royalties or other rights that are being ceded in the contract and how that works and what that affects, how that affects your book, is something that you will have with your editor, and the editor is always willing. I mean, a contract is a legal document, so there are sometimes it's sometimes difficult to interpret, and it's sometimes difficult to understand what those different clauses mean and what that allows us to do with your book. And an editor is always happy to answer those questions. And royalties range, but they're always low, and that's because scholarly publishing is a model where the financial rewards, because of the role of publication in the tenure and promotion process, the financial rewards are always indirect. So the direct financial reward from your book, is unlikely to be more than, $1,000 over your lifetime. On the other hand, the indirect reward, if you want to look at it in a very simple way, as the book enables you to land a tenure track job or to be promoted, and these are things that tenure and promotion committees look at. That type of, that's not the only reason that you're being promoted or hired, but that type of financial reward is more than almost any author would ever earn from direct sales of their book. So the way to think about the royalty reward from your book is not in terms of, can I get 5%, can I get 7.5%, can I get this percent? Especially when as Emily has outlined, that you're likely going to be asked to help find additional money to cover the cost of producing the book, and covering that cost is, taking into account the sale of all the copies of the book that we expect to sell over its lifetime. So, that royalty is only another thing that is an additional cost in terms of producing the book, and the nature of scholarly publishing is that you have to accept that that the direct financial rewards from the sale of your book are going to be minimal, and that scholarly enterprise that you're engaged in is of a higher order, at least as far as the royalty check that you receive every year.
And university presses are non-profit organisations.